Ethan Cole stood at the helm of the celestial Voyager, his breath steady as he watched the endless tapestry of stars spread across the cockpit window. The hum of the spacecraft's engines pulsed beneath his feet, and the glowing panels of instruments cast a soft, flickering glow upon his face. He had embarked on this research expedition with a small team, hoping to discover fresh possibilities of life, water, and resources beyond Earth's diminishing bounty. Yet, amidst this ocean of galaxies, he felt a twinge of unease, as though fate had begun weaving a mysterious thread meant only for him. The celestial Voyager was a sleek, elongated vessel designed for deep space travel, with sophisticated shielding to protect against cosmic radiation. Inside, a labyrinth of corridors and storage chambers held everything from scientific apparatus to frozen provisions. Each compartment was labeled with meticulous care, reflecting the discipline of the mission. Ethan, being one of the lead scientists, had free rein in the laboratories, where he would spend long hours studying data from passing celestial bodies. On the bridge, Captain Harlow guided the ship with deft expertise, ensuring every course correction was executed flawlessly. The rest of the small crew included Felicia, a communications officer well-versed in alien dialects, and Dr. Hanley, who specialized in extraterrestrial biology. Through the thick glass of the cockpit, the stars glimmered in silent glory, an endless invitation to explore the unknown. Little did Ethan suspect that his life was about to change forever. Not long into their voyage, however, a signal emerged from the fringes of the star map, emanating from a faint point that had gone undetected in earlier scans. Intrigued, Captain Harlow adjusted the celestial Voyager's trajectory, setting a course for the unknown coordinate. Suddenly, a violent tremor rattled the ship. Lights flickered, alarms wailed, and the vessel lurched as if caught in the gravitational grip of some unseen force. "Brace for impact," Captain Harlow shouted, her voice resonating with urgency. Ethan obeyed, strapping himself into the nearest seat. The ship spiraled, battered by swirling cosmic energies. Panels burst in showers of sparks, and hull plating threatened to buckle. Through the fractured cockpit window, Ethan glimpsed a swirling mass of azure clouds and mountainous terrain below. With a thunderous roar, the celestial Voyager pierced the unknown planet's atmosphere, trailing debris like a comet. Every muscle in Ethan's body tensed, his heart pounding. Then, in a final, cataclysmic moment, the ship slammed onto the alien soil, skidding through lush foliage and uprooted vegetation, until at last it screeched to a halt. Darkness claimed Ethan's vision, accompanied by a piercing ring in his ears, leaving him uncertain if he was alive or dead. When Ethan next opened his eyes, he lay in a twisted labyrinth of crashed metal and scorched earth. The cockpit window was shattered, shards of glass twinkling under a gently shimmering sky. The rest of the crew was nowhere in sight, and the once pristine consoles were reduced to twisted wreckage. Smoke drifted from the battered hull. His breath came in ragged gulps, and every limb throbbed with pain. Mustering his strength, Ethan unlatched his harness and clambered through the debris. "Captain Harlow," he called, his voice cracking. "Felicia, Dr. Hanley. Can anyone hear me?" His pleas met only with echoing silence and the hiss of sparking wires. The acrid stench of burned circuitry filled his lungs, making him cough. Stumbling from one section to another, he found no trace of survivors. Hope flickered, then waned, as he realized the force of impact might have ejected them from the ship entirely. Crawling through a jagged tear in the hull, Ethan stepped onto alien soil. The planet's air felt surprisingly fresh, oxygen-rich enough for him to breathe without a mask. Around him stretched a sprawling forest of towering trees with ivory bark, their leaves glowing faintly with colors akin to liquid silver. Pain coursed through him like white-hot shards, but he pressed on, scanning the environment. A gentle breeze touched his face, carrying the scent of blossoms and unknown life forms. There was something eerily tranquil about this place, as though nature had flourished unchallenged for centuries. Despite the tranquil setting, Ethan's heart hammered with dread, for he knew rescue was not guaranteed. Alone, injured, with limited supplies, he had no choice but to summon every ounce of resilience he had. Checking his waist pouch, he found a small medkit and a nearly intact handheld scanner. He patched a gash on his arm and bandaged his forehead, wincing as the disinfectant stung. The handheld scanner sputtered but lit up, indicating it could still map life signs. Dim pulses registered in the distance, some flickering in clusters. Clutching the device, Ethan staggered forward, guided by the faint promise of life, uncertain if it were friend or foe. As twilight fell, he found refuge beneath the canopy of colossal flora. Creatures with luminous wings fluttered amid the leaves, casting strange patterns of light on the forest floor. Each step felt like venturing deeper into a living dream, and he feared at any moment he might collapse. But he pressed on, determined to survive long enough to find his missing crewmates, or at least to learn their fates. At dawn, the planet revealed more of its enchanting beauty. The terrain sloped down to a valley, where crystal-clear streams meandered through mossy rocks, glinting in the bright golden sun. Strange vines twined around the bases of trees, their tendrils swaying as though they possessed a gentle consciousness. Birds, if they were birds at all, sang melodies that made Ethan's spine tingle with a sense of awe. Everything felt vibrant, almost too perfect, an untouched paradise. Exhausted, Ethan made his way to the banks of a stream, kneeling to drink. The water tasted pure, invigorating his weary body. As he quenched his thirst, he became aware of a peculiar quiet around him, as if the forest were holding its breath. Before he could react, a low hum of energy rippled across his skin. His handheld scanner flickered, revealing numerous life forms rapidly converging on his position. He stood, heart pounding, scanning the nearby growth. Then, they emerged, beings of a slender, lithe build, each bearing an almost human visage but distinct in subtle ways. Their skin glimmered with pastel hues, and their hair ranged from snow white to deep lavender. Their attire, if it could be called such, was made from translucent, shimmering fabric that seemed spun from the planet's living resources. Yet the most striking detail was their faces, undeniably feminine in contour, with large eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and innocence. Although Ethan had prepared for first contact with alien species, never had he imagined encountering a purely female civilization. The group of alien women observed him warily, their heads tilting as though listening to an unheard melody. One, taller than the rest, stepped forward. She exuded a quiet confidence, something regal in her posture. Clasping her hands in front of her, she spoke in a soft, musical language. Ethan hesitated, uncertain how to respond. He slowly raised his palms to show he carried no weapon. "Hello," he said, voice trembling with both fear and wonder. "I come in peace. My name is Ethan Cole. I crashed here." He patted his chest, then gestured to the sky, hoping his universal translator, integrated into the handheld scanner, might pick up some of their linguistic cues. Another woman, smaller and livelier, approached him, curiosity dancing in her bright, violet eyes. She repeated his name in her own accent, though it sounded like a gentle ripple of syllables. Ethan's translator managed a crude synthesis, echoing in monotone. "Ethan Cole, crash from sky, come in peace." A soft murmur spread among the gathering. Some giggled, intrigued by his presence, while others whispered in hushed concern. The taller woman, who appeared to be the leader, lifted her slender arm and motioned for the group to stand aside. Approaching Ethan more closely, she studied his injuries with evident compassion, reaching out to touch the bandage on his temple. Her voice was soothing, reminiscent of wind chimes. As she spoke, the translator offered a rough interpretation. "You are hurt, stranger, from the stars. We will help you. My name is Soraya." Relief flooded Ethan's heart as he realized they meant no harm. Despite the language barrier, the kindness in their eyes was unmistakable. Soraya beckoned him to follow, and Ethan, with cautious optimism, stepped into their midst, flanked by curious faces. He could scarcely guess what awaited him in the depths of this alien domain, but he knew that, for now, these women were his only hope of survival, and possibly the key to uncovering the fate of his missing crew. The settlement they led him to was unlike anything Ethan had envisioned. Towering spires of iridescent stone rose from the forest floor, their surfaces carved with intricate symbols that glimmered under the planet's sunlight. Pathways of polished crystal wound through the settlement, each one adorned with vibrant flowers that seemed to resonate with the footfalls of the inhabitants. A tranquil energy pulsed in every corner. As Ethan traversed this marvelous city, he noted that there were no men present, no masculine figures at all. Everywhere, graceful women conducted daily tasks with a gentle efficiency that surpassed Earth's standards of order. Some harvested large, softly luminescent fruits from hanging vines, while others channeled streams of water through crystal conduits that watered communal gardens. The entire place felt seamlessly integrated with the natural environment, as though it had sprouted from the living soil. Soraya guided Ethan through an arched entranceway that led into a spacious hall. Walls of translucent stone allowed sunshine to bathe the interior with soft radiance. At the far end, a seat carved from living wood stood upon a slightly elevated dais. He guessed it served as some manner of council chamber or gathering place. Murmurs echoed behind him as more and more of the residents gathered, captivated by the visitor from the stars. One figure rushed forward with a swirl of her shimmering garment. Her vivacious expression, large eyes, and bright smile set her apart from the others. She exclaimed in excited tones, and the translator crackled to life. "I am Alia. Welcome, Starman. Welcome to our home." She seemed younger than Soraya, her energy brimming with unrestrained curiosity. It was Alia who had repeated his name earlier. Soraya, however, exuded a calm, regal poise. With a measured tone, she introduced Ethan to the assembly. She described his sudden appearance, the crash, and the injuries he bore. The onlookers listened intently, nodding in unison, occasionally placing their palms upon their hearts, as though to offer empathy. Ethan could sense an almost telepathic harmony between them, a shared resonance that guided their communal decisions. When Soraya finished speaking, Alia took Ethan's hand, gently leading him to the center of the chamber. The translator rendered her words, albeit in a broken cadence. "We seldom see outsiders, but the old legends speak of a visitor from the stars who might come when the time is right." Her eyes sparkled, as though marveling at the prospect of prophecy made real. "Your presence is important, maybe. You must see the sacred artifact." A collective ripple of excitement and mild concern spread through the crowd. Ethan, unsure of what was unfolding, bowed his head respectfully, trusting in their kindness. He had to find out if any of his crew had also been rescued. But first, it seemed, there was some ancient ritual or custom he needed to honor. And so, with a mixture of apprehension and fascination, he stood before these alien women, waiting to see what fate would cast upon him next. Under Soraya's watchful guidance, Ethan was led through corridors with vaulted ceilings that glowed faintly, as though the very stone contained traces of living energy. Every step seemed to resonate with a subtle hum, a pulse that matched the rhythms of his heart. The deeper they ventured, the quieter the city became, until at last they emerged into a secluded chamber, circular in design, lined with tapestries of woven crystal threads. In the chamber's center stood a pedestal of pearly stone, upon which rested a strange, orb-like object. About the size of a human skull, it shimmered with layers of color, as if galaxies swirled within. The air around it felt charged, and Ethan's skin prickled with goosebumps. Alia approached it reverently, her gaze full of wonder. "This is the sacred artifact," she murmured, eyes locked upon the orb. "It has been with us for centuries, maybe longer. Our ancestors discovered it, and we believe it safeguards our world." She looked at Ethan intently. "They say only when an outsider arrives would the artifact reveal its true purpose." Ethan stepped closer. A tingling sensation buzzed in his fingertips. "It's extraordinary," he whispered, unsure if the translator would catch the tone of awe in his voice. Looking at Soraya, he added, "What do you know of its power? Has it done anything like this before?" He gestured at the subtle glow dancing around the orb's surface, intensifying at his presence. Soraya shook her head solemnly. "It remains inert, mostly, yet it wards off malevolent forces. In times of great threat, it glows brighter, guiding our people to safety. We do not fully understand it. We only keep it guarded and treat it with reverence." Her brow furrowed. "Our records mention a chosen visitor from beyond the stars. Some among us believe this is you, Ethan Cole." He swallowed hard. The notion seemed preposterous, Yet the evidence lay before him in the pulsing orb, reacting to him in real time. Tentatively, he reached out, the tips of his fingers brushing the artifact's surface. A surge of warmth coursed through his arm, then spread throughout his entire body, leaving him momentarily breathless. Sparks of pale light flickered within the orb, swirling in mesmerizing patterns. A hush fell upon the chamber, so profound Ethan could hear his own heartbeat. Alia let out a silent gasp. Soraya's eyes widened, betraying surprise that even she could not conceal. For a moment, Ethan felt connected to the planet itself, as though the soil and skies, the water and trees, were part of a vast consciousness that recognized him. When he finally withdrew his hand, the orb's swirling lights gradually settled, though it continued to glow faintly, as if forever changed by the contact. A quiet awe lingered in the air. "You see," Alia whispered, looking from Ethan to Soraya. "He has awakened something within it. Perhaps the prophecy is beginning." Despite her excitement, there was a flicker of uncertainty in her tone. Ethan exhaled, trying to gather his thoughts. "I'm just a scientist, an explorer from Earth. I've no idea why the artifact would react to me, but I promise to help you understand this, if I can." He then remembered the reason he first came. "But please, I must also find my crew. They crashed with me, and they may be in danger." His words hung in the stillness. Soraya's expression softened. "Of course, we shall do all we can to help locate them. Our people will search the forests, the streams, every corner we know." She touched Ethan's shoulder gently. "But for now, rest. You are weary, and much has been revealed. We can speak more of the artifact, and your people, once you have regained your strength." Though his mind spun with questions and fear for the crew, Ethan nodded. He left the sacred chamber, feeling a complex mixture of gratitude, anxiety, and an inexplicable bond to the orb that had just altered his destiny. Back in the main quarters of the city, Alia showed Ethan to a guest suite carved from smooth stone. Elegant curtains of shimmering fabric hung from the arched doorway, and a circular bed of plush, moss-like material dominated the center. Beneath the skylight, delicate crystals formed patterns that reflected the sunlight, bathing the room in ever-changing hues. A fragrance of unfamiliar flowers drifted in, soothing Ethan's fraught nerves. As he settled onto the bed, Alia knelt nearby, examining the bandage on his forehead. With deft fingers, she applied a salve extracted from a small, gourd-like container. The moment it touched his skin, a cool sensation eased the pain, and he sighed in relief. She smiled, her eyes full of empathy. "You are very brave, Ethan," she said, her words sounding smoother as the translator became more accustomed to their language. "Most who journey among stars do not survive such a landing. But your determination is strong. I sense that." Her earnest sincerity warmed him, and for the first time since the crash, he felt a spark of hope. "Thank you, Alia," he responded quietly, attempting to keep his voice from trembling. "Where I come from, we are taught to persevere, to uncover secrets of the universe. But I never expected this." He gestured vaguely at the alien city around them. "It's breathtaking, unlike anything I've ever imagined." Alia's laughter was soft, cascading like a gentle fountain. "We do not think of it as breathtaking, since it is all we know. The sunlight, the crystal spires, the forest. Our mothers taught us to live in harmony with all things." Her face grew wistful. "If your crew is here, we will find them. Have no fear. Soraya has already summoned scouts to search beyond the city." He inclined his head in thanks, grateful for the compassion shown by these mysterious women. When Alia left, Ethan let exhaustion overcome him. The bed enveloped him in warmth, and though the events of the past day whirled through his mind, he felt a measure of security he had not thought possible after such a tumultuous crash. In time, he drifted into a deep sleep. In his dreams, he found himself floating in a cosmic sea, the sacred artifact swirling around him, whispering in voices he couldn't decipher. Stars pulsed like beating hearts, and a faint, feminine chorus called his name from distant galaxies. The dream carried a sense of foreboding, as though a shadow loomed on the horizon, threatening to swallow all light. But the orb in his vision glowed ever brighter, warding off the darkness until he awoke, heart pounding. Sunlight streamed through the skylight, and for a moment, he forgot he was on an alien world. Reality soon returned, and with it a renewed determination to find his lost crew. Over the next few days, Ethan grew familiar with the customs of these alien women, learning snippets of their language, their history, and their daily routines. Scouts returned periodically, reporting on areas they had searched, yet there was still no sign of Captain Harlow, Felicia, or Dr. Hanley. His heart sank with each disappointment, but he refused to give up. In the evenings, Soraya summoned Ethan to the High Council Hall, where other leaders of the community would gather. They questioned him about his world, its wars, its technology, its men. At first, their curiosity about the male half of humanity seemed innocent enough, but eventually, their questions grew more perplexed. Ethan realized they possessed only legends about such a concept, as if men were a myth from a distant era. He sensed a childlike wonder among them, untouched by certain hardships that plagued Earth. In return, Ethan asked about their civilization. They called themselves the Rivenai, an ancient line born of this planet they named Tethys. Long ago, the planet's environment had been harsh, beset by storms and cosmic disturbances. Then, their ancestors discovered the sacred artifact. Under its influence, the storm subsided, and Tethys blossomed into the lush paradise it was today. Over time, the Rivenai population stabilized into an all-female society, though none could recall precisely how or why men disappeared, only that it had been the will of the planet. Soraya often sat beside Ethan, quietly absorbing his answers. Her wise, solemn eyes intrigued him. Though gentle in manner, she possessed a steely determination. Alia, on the other hand, remained exuberant, peppering him with questions about life beyond Tethys. Yet both looked to him with an almost reverential hope, believing his arrival might herald a new chapter in their history. Ethan, for his part, felt torn. On one hand, he was deeply moved by their kindness, by the undeniable beauty of their society's harmony. On the other, he worried about the approaching shadow he had sensed in his dream. The orb's reaction to him implied that Tethys might face a looming threat. But from where? His question was answered sooner than expected. One serene morning, while Ethan studied the local flora with Alia, the planet trembled. A distant rumble shattered the silence, followed by high-pitched shrieks that echoed from the forest perimeter. Startled, they rushed towards the commotion. As they emerged onto a wide clearing, Ethan froze in disbelief. A towering, mechanized walker strode across the landscape, its metallic limbs crushing plants and stones beneath it. Emblazoned on its side was the logo of Centronova Corporation, a ruthless industrial conglomerate known for exploiting alien worlds. Accompanying it were smaller hovercrafts bearing heavily armed soldiers, scanning the area with predatory intensity. Centronova. Ethan hissed under his breath, his heart clenching in rage. He had read about their unscrupulous tactics, conquering or bribing local populations, seizing resources, leaving behind scarred wastelands. That they were here, on Tethys, boded ill for its peaceful inhabitants. Alia clutched Ethan's arm, horror evident in her wide eyes. "What are those?" They come with malice," she whispered, her voice trembling. Indeed, the Rivenai had never witnessed such technology, such brazen destruction. Cries of alarm spread throughout the city, sending its residents into a panic. Before Ethan could react, a small group of Centronova soldiers spotted them. Their leader, a cold-eyed man with a scar tracing his jawline, lifted a scanner. "We've got a human signature," he barked, disbelief dripping from his tone. "Identify yourself." Ethan stepped forward, arms raised to show he was unarmed. "My name is Ethan Cole, from the Celestial Voyager. We crashed here. This planet is inhabited. These people mean no harm." He tried to keep his voice steady, though the sight of the corporation's weaponry made his stomach twist. The scarred man scoffed, glancing at the Rivenai women with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "These people, as you call them, are sitting on a gold mine of cosmic energy," he said, gesturing to the advanced scanning device strapped to his belt. "The readings are off the charts. Now stand aside, or I'll have you shot for obstructing corporate operations." Alia's face blanched with fear. She had no reference point for such cruelty. But Ethan, having witnessed the corporation's exploits in galactic headlines, knew they were dangerously serious. "Listen," he pleaded, "this planet is not for you to exploit. The Rivenai have lived here peacefully for eons. You can't just come in. A sudden flash of green light cut him off, scorching the ground near his feet. One of the soldiers adjusted his plasma rifle menacingly. Next one's going through your skull, he growled. Chaos broke loose as a group of Rivenai scouts rushed in, attempting to defend their people. Their weaponry was primitive by comparison, staffs etched with faint energy, more ceremonial than militaristic. The Centronova soldiers unleashed a barrage of blaster fire, scattering the unprepared defenders. A few Rivenai fell, stunned or injured, and the rest were forced to retreat under the withering assault. Alia grabbed Ethan's hand, pulling him away from the carnage. "We must find Soraya," she cried. "She will know what to do. Hurry." Together, they sprinted back toward the city, leaving the ruthless invaders to continue their sweep of the territory. Ethan's heart pounded, fury and dread competing within him. He had to protect these innocent women, and possibly the entire planet, from the machinations of Centronova. But how? They found Soraya and other council members in the central chamber, the sacred artifact still resting upon its pedestal. A hush fell among the assembled Rivenai as Ethan recounted the arrival of Centronova, the towering walker, the soldiers' aggression, the advanced weaponry. Wounded scouts confirmed his testimony, describing how their staffs of protective energy had been shattered by the invaders' ruthless firepower. A solemn silence weighted the air. Soraya's expression betrayed her distress. "You speak of unimaginable violence, Ethan. We have never known such destructive force. Our entire city is unprepared." A few of the council members trembled, sharing frightened glances. Ethan looked at them gravely. "These corporate mercenaries will not stop until they extract whatever resource they believe Tethys holds. I suspect they've detected the same energy that powers your sacred artifact. If so, they'll take it, or destroy it, without regard for your well-being." His words felt heavy, but he had no wish to soften the truth. Alia, seated beside Soraya, rose in agitation. "Then we must defend ourselves. We cannot allow them to desecrate our home. We cannot let them harm our people." Her voice quivered with equal parts fear and resolve. Soraya placed a comforting hand on Alia's shoulder. "Yes, we must defend Tethys. But how? Our ways have never included war, not for centuries. Our ancestors surrendered violence to live in harmony. Now, faced with such a threat, we are lost." Her gaze shifted to the sacred artifact, which pulsed faintly. "Could it help us?" Ethan drew nearer to the orb. He explained, "It responded to me before, but I do not fully understand its capabilities. Perhaps it can generate a shield, or some form of energy to repel attackers." The orb flickered as though listening. "The question is, can I figure out how to harness it? And can the Rivenai accept what may be necessary to protect themselves?" A ripple of uncertainty passed through the group. Some clung to the hope that the orb's ancient power would provide salvation without resorting to destructive means. Others, including a few younger council members, began to steel themselves for some form of militant resistance. Divided, they looked to Soraya for guidance. Summoning courage, Soraya spoke. "We shall try to communicate with the artifact once more. Ethan, if you are truly the visitor from the stars foretold by our ancestors, then we must trust you. Do whatever is necessary to unlock its power. Alia, gather our bravest scouts. We will not wage war, but we cannot yield our land either. We must be prepared for all outcomes." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. The weight of an entire civilization pressed upon him. So much had changed since his crash landing. Once a simple explorer, he had become the unlikely guardian of a peaceful people, threatened by a corporate entity bent on ravaging their planet. The stage was set for a battle unlike any Tethys had seen, one that might determine the fate of the Rivenai forever. Determined to understand the sacred artifact, Ethan spent the evening in the chamber alone with it, by Soraya's solemn permission. The rest of the city prepared as best they could, forging rudimentary shields from crystal-laced metals, reinforcing the city gates, which were more symbolic than functional, and tending to the wounded. Eerie calm settled over Tethys as starlight draped the spires, transforming them into silent sentinels. By the orb's gentle glow, Ethan studied every carving, every inscription on the surrounding walls, attempting to glean some clue about how to interface with its power. The swirling energies within the artifact responded to his presence, but he sensed reluctance, as though it withheld the deeper secrets. He placed a trembling palm against its surface. Warmth spread through him, stirring visions he could barely comprehend. Flashes of Tethys history blurred through his mind. Monolithic storms raging eons ago, cataclysmic upheavals, then the orb appearing in the hands of an ancient matriarch. With it, she pacified the storms, establishing a lasting peace. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. He glimpsed Earth too, but only fleetingly. A chaotic tapestry of wars, progress, heartbreak, and hope. With an effort, he focused his thoughts. Artifact, if you can hear me, he whispered silently. Show me how to protect these people. Show me how to use your power without bringing destruction. The orb pulsed, and Ethan felt a presence brush against his mind, an echo of infinite possibility. Gasping, he shut his eyes, surrendering to the flow of alien energy. The orb's essence seemed to envelop him, weaving threads of knowledge into his consciousness. Slowly, shapes and formulas formed in his mind. The architecture of an energy shield, instructions to synchronize Tethys' natural frequencies with the device's power. It was like deciphering an ancient cosmic blueprint. Disconnected images of swirling runes, geometric patterns, and melodic sequences fluttered behind his eyelids, merging into a grand design. When the connection finally loosened, he staggered backward, nearly collapsing onto the stone floor. The artifact's glow dimmed, as though drained from the exertion. Yet Ethan's mind blazed with newfound clarity. Though he did not fully comprehend it, he sensed that a plan for planetary defense now resided within him, waiting to be brought forth. Breathing heavily, he whispered, "Thank you," to the orb. It gave one final flicker of acknowledgement before falling silent. He hurried to find Soraya and Alia, determined to convert this arcane knowledge into the Rivenai's salvation. By dawn, Ethan had assembled a group of Rivenai who possessed the technical aptitude to help him realize the artifact's design. Soraya watched over them, ensuring cooperation and encouragement. Alia, her sleeves rolled up, worked alongside them, bravely attempting to interpret Ethan's hurried sketches on a makeshift blueprint. They spread out across the central plaza, gathering crystals, metals, and organic materials that resonated with the planet's natural energy fields. None of them had done anything like this before. The Rivenai had crafted architecture in harmony with nature, but building a planetary shield generator was a massive leap from their usual stone and crystal artistry. Despite the magnitude of the task, their dedication and synergy shone. With surprising speed, they erected a structure around the city's perimeter, an array of crystalline towers designed to channel energy from the sacred artifact. Ethan directed them, relying on half-formed memories imparted by the orb. At times, he doubted himself, worried that the instructions might be misinterpreted. But every time he placed a key crystal or whispered a sequence of harmonic notes, the devices hummed to life, glowing with potential. Hope fluttered through the city like a calming breeze. Meanwhile, the threat of Centronova loomed closer. Scouts reported sightings of more mechanical walkers, setting up encampments at strategic locations. Rumors suggested the corporation planned to drill deep into the planet's crust, seeking the hidden reservoir of cosmic energy. Their knowledge of Tethys' environment was dangerously incomplete. Such drilling could trigger a catastrophe, possibly even planetary instability. The Rivenai trembled at the thought. "Time is short," Ethan muttered to Soraya as they paused for a moment's rest. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his lungs heaved from hours of relentless labor. "We must activate the shield soon, or it won't matter if it's finished. Centronova will just march right in." Soraya's lips tightened into a grim line. "Do what you must. We will hold them off as long as possible, though we are not warriors by nature." She turned to Alia, who held a staff that glowed with soft blue light. "Rally our defenders. Show them the courage we have learned from this Starman's bravery." Alia nodded resolutely, her eyes shining with determination. "We shall stall these invaders while Ethan and our sisters complete the shield. We have no choice." Though her voice trembled slightly, her resolve was unyielding. Ethan's heart panged at the thought of these peaceful women facing an onslaught of guns and machines. He pushed the sentiment aside. "Focus, Ethan," he told himself. "Get this shield working, or their bravery will be for nothing." And so, as the Rivenai prepared to confront a faceless enemy, Ethan and his team frantically worked to harness the sacred artifact's power, hoping that, in the end, it would be enough. A horn-like blast sounded through the forest at midday, signaling that the Centronova forces were advancing. Every Rivenai capable of fighting gathered at the edge of the city, clutching staff-like weapons of carved crystal. Ethan glimpsed them in the distance, hundreds of resolute faces, lips pressed thin, hearts pounding with dread. They stood behind hastily constructed barricades, some behind thick tree trunks that still shimmered with living energy. Through the trees, Ethan saw the silhouette of the giant walker looming in the midday sun. Accompanying it were smaller drones, their rotors whirring like angry hornets. As he returned to the shield generators, he heard the first shots fired, bright beams piercing the canopy. Birds and forest creatures fled in a cacophony of alarm. The conflict had begun. "Quickly, Ethan!" cried one of the Rivenai engineers named Reuniting, her voice urgent. "The towers are aligned, but we need to synchronize their frequencies." She handed him a crystalline tablet etched with the swirling characters of the Rivenai alphabet. He recognized it as part of the control console. Kneeling before the main tower, Ethan entered the sequences imparted to him by the orb. The crystals vibrated, humming in different pitches that echoed through the city. Another engineer adjusted an antenna, while a third monitored energy levels. The sacred artifact, resting in a carved recess nearby, glowed fiercely, feeding raw power into the network. Sparks flew, and the ground trembled underfoot. Gritting his teeth, Ethan prayed he had not mistranslated the orb's instructions. A dazzling arc of light shot from the central tower, branching out like a web of luminescence to the other towers. The city's perimeter flared with radiant shields that crackled with energy. Gasps of astonishment spread among the Rivenai as they witnessed the barrier flicker into being. But they were not safe yet. Alia's voice rang out from the front line. She hurled a glowing staff, sending a surge of protective force that knocked back a squad of Centronova infantry. The mechanical walker retaliated, firing a salvo of missiles at the barricades. Explosions rocked the forest floor, sending clouds of smoke and debris into the air. Panicked cries filled the clearing. Ethan realized with horror that the shield was not fully extended, leaving parts of the city's edge vulnerable. "We need more power," he shouted, scrambling to stabilize the fluctuations in the energy matrix. Soraya rushed forward, placing her hands on the console. She chanted a Rivenai incantation, adding a mysterious harmonic to the system. Slowly, the shield's perimeter began to expand, inch by inch, across the city's boundary. "Almost there," Ethan muttered, heart pounding. If the shield could fully enclose the city, they might buy enough time to figure out a long-term solution. But every second counted. Another volley from the walker sent trembling shockwaves through the ground, toppling a towering spire near the outskirts. Fragments of crystal showered the defenders, and Ethan clenched his jaw in despair. Yet, among the carnage, the Rivenai stood tall, resisting with a courage born of desperation. They unleashed bursts of luminescent energy from their staffs, each strike guided by centuries of spiritual training, though they had never before wielded it in conflict. Alia fought at the forefront, eyes ablaze with a fierce determination that belied her gentle nature. Finally, with one last burst of bright light, the shield sealed shut, encasing the city in a protective dome. Centronova's next wave of missiles impacted the barrier, detonating in a blaze of sparks that rippled harmlessly off the glimmering surface. Cheers of relief mingled with the anguished cries of the wounded. The immediate threat was repelled for now. Ethan sank to his knees, sweat pouring down his face. Soraya placed a hand on his shoulder. "We owe you our lives," she said, voice trembling. "But we cannot hide forever behind a shield. The invaders will find a way through eventually." He nodded, exhaustion weighing on him. "We've bought some time, Soraya. But you're right. We need a final solution. The question is, what does the orb intend for us to do?" She cast a worried glance at the sacred artifact, still flickering within the tower. "We must speak with it again, Ethan, for the sake of our world." As the hours passed, the invading forces circled outside the shimmering barrier, testing for weak points. Drones buzzed overhead, scanning for vulnerabilities, while the large walker pounded the ground with its weight, sending tremors through the city. Some of the Rivenai, frightened by the claustrophobic aura of the shield, struggled to maintain composure. Inside the city walls, healers tended to the wounded, using herbal poultices mixed with gentle energy to alleviate pain. Soraya and Alia moved among their people, offering words of encouragement and hope. Still, a somber tension hung in the air, knowing their sanctuary was precarious at best. In the central chamber, Ethan once again reached out to the artifact, kneeling on the polished stone. Each time he touched it, he felt a profound connection, as if Tethys itself were whispering in his ear. Behind closed lids, he saw storms swirling in cosmic voids, starfields blossoming into galaxies, and swirling pulses of ancient knowledge. He pressed his hand more firmly, pouring his plea into it. "Orb, sacred artifact, show me the path to peace," he whispered. "Not just for the Rivenai, but for my crew, for every living thing on this planet. Tell me how to stop Centronova without sacrificing Tethys' future." The orb pulsated softly, as though in quiet contemplation. In a flash of insight, Ethan sensed the key lay not in turning the orb into a weapon, but in guiding Tethys' energy into a harmonizing force. The Rivenai had built their society around harmony, not violence. Perhaps the orb expected them to remain true to that principle. Another set of images materialized in his mind, something akin to a resonance field that extended far beyond the city, enveloping the planet. If activated, it could neutralize invasive energies, rendering weapons useless and halting destructive impulses. Yet such an undertaking would require a colossal surge of power, risking catastrophic side effects, if not precisely calibrated. The line between salvation and annihilation might be razor thin. Could the Rivenai muster the courage to attempt it? Could Ethan replicate the orb's instructions? He stood, shaking off the trance. Soraya waited nearby, her calm presence anchoring him to reality. Briefly, he explained the vision, describing the possibility of a planetary resonance wave. It would mean channeling energy not just from the orb, but from every living thing on Tethys, forming a united front that no external technology could breach. Her face paled at the thought. "That is enormous," she breathed. "If we fail, we could tear our planet apart. Do we dare attempt such a feat?" Ethan gripped her hands. "We have to. If we do nothing, Centronova will siphon Tethys' life force, turning it into a barren wasteland. I'd rather risk everything to save it." Soraya's eyes brimmed with tears. She took a trembling breath and nodded. They summoned Alia and the council. Reactions ranged from stunned silence to immediate acceptance. The Rivenai had long believed in the symbiosis of life on Tethys. That they might unify in a grand effort to protect their homeland resonated with their deepest spiritual tenets. The plan was formed. They would gather in the sacred grove, a site older than the city itself, where ancient trees, rumored to be the planet's nerve center, stood in a silent ring around an enigmatic pool. If they succeeded, Tethys would defend itself. If they failed, the consequences could be unimaginable. Night descended, calm yet laden with tension. Ethan joined Soraya, Alia, and a procession of Rivenai pilgrims walking under the moonlight toward the sacred grove. The shield still sparkled around the city, but it was a fragile piece. Outside, the hum of Centronova machinery never ceased, and the horizon glowed with the harsh lights of their encampment. Lanterns of bioluminescent plants lit the narrow path to the grove. The crowd carried small crystals tuned to the same harmonic frequency, each one flickering in time with the others. A hushed reverence fell upon them when the ancient trees came into view, massive, gnarled trunks that soared skyward, their branches weaving a canopy that glimmered with star-like motes. In the heart of this ring stood a circular pool of water, eerily still, reflecting the moon's silver glow. They formed a wide circle around the pool, guided by Soraya's gentle instructions. Alia stood at the far edge, staff in hand, eyes shining with determination. Ethan removed his boots and stepped barefoot onto the damp ground, feeling the soft moss between his toes. The orb, carried in a carved cradle of roots, rested near the water's edge, pulsing with expectation. Silently, the Rivenai clasped hands, forming an unbroken ring of unity. Soraya and Alia stood by Ethan, each placing a hand on his shoulder, a silent gesture of trust. "Commune with Tethys," Soraya whispered, her voice amplified by the hushed anticipation. "We will follow your lead." Drawing a steady breath, Ethan knelt by the orb, placing both palms upon its surface. Closing his eyes, he summoned the instructions etched into his consciousness. He pictured lines of energy spiraling outward from the orb, passing through every Rivenai, through the ancient trees, through the waters and the skies, until they encompassed the entire planet in a glowing lattice of mutual understanding. At first, nothing happened. Then, a soft breeze rustled the leaves overhead, accompanied by a shimmering sensation beneath Ethan's skin. The orb grew warm, and the ground began to pulse beneath him, as if a heartbeat resonated up from Tethys' core. The ring of Rivenai murmured a low chant, their voices blending into a single note that vibrated in the night air. The orb responded, flaring with opalescent light. Threads of luminescent energy leaped from the orb into Ethan, then rippled outward into the Rivenai circle. Crystalline laughter, at once musical and thunderous, echoed in Ethan's mind. He understood it to be the planet's voice, awakened and alert. Waves of power coursed through every living thing present, igniting the crystals they held, turning them into miniature suns. The ring of ancient trees glowed from within their bark, the pool's surface shimmering like liquid starlight. Ethan felt both exhilaration and terror as the field expanded, enveloping them in swirling light that reached far beyond sight. Then came the moment of truth. With a focused thought, Ethan directed the resonance outward, stretching it beyond the city walls, beyond the shield, to wash over the land where Centronova's machines stood. If it worked, their weapons would be dampened, their technology rendered inert by the planet's overwhelming harmony. If not, a blinding flash erupted, and Ethan felt reality lurch around him. In that surge, he sensed the planet's infinite depths, the swirling energies of its core, the love and fear and hope of the Rivenai. He clutched the orb, holding on for dear life as a tidal wave of power swept over Tethys. At Centronova's encampment, soldiers and engineers scrambled as warning alarms blared. Their scanners registered an unprecedented energy field spreading across the landscape. The monstrous walker froze mid-step, its joints seizing. The drones spiraled out of control, crashing to the ground in showers of sparks. Weapon systems shorted in bursts of electricity, leaving rifles and cannons useless hunks of metal. The scarred commander roared in frustration, barking orders that fizzled into chaos. All around him, machinery died, as though the planet itself rejected their presence. He tried to access a communications channel, only to find static. Every piece of technology had gone silent. From within the city walls, the shimmering shield flickered, then dissipated, no longer needed. The same wave that neutralized the invaders' firepower spread across the valley, past the forest, out toward the horizon. The hum of cosmic resonance filled the air, soothing yet immense. A hush descended over Tethys, broken only by the startled cries of those who had lost their mechanical advantage. In the sacred grove, Ethan collapsed onto the damp moss, trembling with exhaustion. The orb's glow subsided, returning to its soft, shimmering radiance. Around him, the Rivenai swayed in place, dazed by the surge of power. Alia rushed forward, catching Ethan before he fell face-first into the grass. "Ethan," she breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "You did it. Look, the machines are quiet. They cannot harm us now." Tears glistened in her eyes as she helped him stand. Soraya gazed around the grove in awe, laying a trembling hand on the trunk of one of the ancient trees. "The planet, it answered our call. We are safe, at least for the moment." Her voice carried a note of reverent disbelief. Catching his breath, Ethan steadied himself. "We have to be cautious. The effect might not last forever, and we still have the commander and his soldiers to deal with." Despite his weariness, a wave of relief cascaded through him. They had achieved something miraculous, manipulating the planet's energy field to counteract Centronova's advanced weaponry. Even if the corporation attempted to bring reinforcements, Tethys would likely deny them, as long as the resonance remained in place. A cheer rose from the Rivenai, their voices uniting in a jubilant chorus that filled the night sky with triumphant melody. Nature itself seemed to echo the celebration. The trees swayed, shedding leaves that sparkled like falling stars. In that moment, Tethys felt truly alive, more a conscious presence than a lifeless sphere. Weak-kneed and overwhelmed, Ethan sank to the ground, letting relief flood over him. Alia knelt beside him, and Soraya joined them. Wordlessly, the three held hands, forming a quiet testament to hope amid the swirling energies of the planet they had all fought to protect. Come morning, the city's defenders found that their once imperious enemies had been rendered powerless by the planetary resonance wave. Armed only with useless rifles, the Centronova soldiers wandered the outskirts like lost travelers, their mechanized support reduced to inert junk. Unsure how to react, they set up a makeshift camp under the watchful eyes of Rivenai sentinels, who now approached them with a mixture of caution and pity. Ethan and Soraya, accompanied by a small delegation, ventured beyond the city walls to confront the invaders. Alia insisted on coming, her staff held firmly in her grip as a reminder of what the Rivenai could do if threatened again. The early morning sunlight bathed the scene in a golden glow, revealing the extent of destruction: fallen trees, scorched ground, and the hulking remains of the walker. But a gentle wind carried the scent of regrowth, as if Tethys was already healing. They found the scarred commander pacing around a damaged console. His face was etched with fury, yet he was clearly at a loss. When he saw Ethan, he spat on the ground. "You," he snarled. "What kind of trick did you pull? We've been cut off from our fleet, all communications dead, our gears worthless." Ethan approached slowly, remembering the threat this man had posed not so long ago. "Not a trick," he replied. "The planet itself is pushing back. You can't exploit Tethys without its cooperation, and it has chosen to defend itself." He cast a glance at the battered remnants of Centronova's technology. "You can't force your will here anymore." The commander's soldiers looked on, some shaken, others visibly desperate. Without their war machines, they were stranded in a foreign land, surrounded by potential enemies. Soraya stepped forward, regal in her calm bearing. "We are not a vengeful people," she said, her voice carrying clear authority. "We will not harm you, so long as you leave Tethys in peace." Several soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. One ventured a question: "How do we leave if our equipment is fried?" "The orbiting ship is out of contact." Soraya turned to Ethan, seeking his guidance. He took a deep breath before answering. "Once we stabilize the planetary resonance field, some measure of technology might function again. Enough for basic communication, perhaps. But your heavy weapons and mining rigs will remain inert. This planet won't allow them. If you truly want to leave, we can try to help you contact your mothership, on the condition that you never return to harm Tethys." The commander scowled, but he was trapped with no real bargaining chip. He could not reassert control through violence, not while Tethys resonance nullified his weapons. Seething, he spat again, then barked a curt nod. "Fine. We'll leave, if your blasted planet lets us." For a moment, neither side spoke. The Rivenai, who had only ever known peace, now stared at the strangers who came with conquest in their hearts, only to be defeated by a deeper unity. Alia tightened her grip on the staff, as if reminding herself that mercy was a hallmark of their civilization. Ethan extended a hand toward the commander. "Let's end this. We'll escort you and your men to a place where we can broadcast a signal. If you promise not to use any subterfuge against us, we'll allow you safe passage off Tethys." With grudging acceptance, the commander clasped Ethan's hand. A fragile ceasefire settled over the clearing. Although mistrust lingered, a pathway to resolution lay before them, guided by the living power of Tethys. Over the following days, the Rivenai provided food and basic shelter for the Centronova survivors, wary but compassionate. Under Ethan's supervision, they carefully reduced the amplitude of the planetary resonance field, creating a narrow band of frequencies that would permit limited technological functions without compromising Tethys. A portable comm unit was painstakingly repaired using parts salvaged from the wrecked machinery. Eventually, it blinked to life, broadcasting a faint signal into orbit. During this time, Ethan had not given up on finding his missing crewmates. Scouts scoured the forests, guided by images of Captain Harlow, Felicia, and Dr. Hanley that Ethan provided. At last, one search party returned with news of a group of survivors spotted in a cave along the cliffs to the west, barely clinging to life. Ethan rushed to the site, accompanied by a handful of Rivenai healers. There, in a damp, torch-lit recess, he found Captain Harlow with a broken leg, Felicia dehydrated but conscious, and Dr. Hanley unconscious from a head wound. A wave of relief crashed over him, nearly bringing him to tears. They were alive, if only barely. The Rivenai healers worked quickly, applying herbal extracts and soft waves of energy to numb pain and encourage tissue regeneration. Over hours of meticulous care, Harlow's leg was stabilized, Felicia's fever subsided, and Dr. Hanley regained partial consciousness. "Ethan," he rasped, eyes focusing on his rescuer with disbelief. We thought we were the only ones left." Ethan clasped Hanley's hand, heart full of gratitude. "I found help," he said simply, tears threatening to spill. "And they saved me, too." The survivors were carefully transported back to the city, where the Rivenai welcomed them with a compassion that moved Captain Harlow to speechlessness. It was a powerful testament that even after all the violence inflicted by Centronova, these people still opened their hearts to strangers from the stars. As Felicia recovered, she helped refine the translation matrix, allowing for clearer communication between humans and Rivenai. Dr. Hanley, once he regained his strength, marveled at the society's integrated relationship with their environment, taking copious notes and samples for study. Captain Harlow, though still bound to a crutch, spoke with Soraya and the Council, forging a diplomatic accord of friendship, an acknowledgement that the celestial Voyager's mission had been to explore, not conquer. Meanwhile, Centronova's mothership eventually responded to the comm unit's distress call. Unable to bypass the planet's new resonance barrier, it sent a retrieval shuttle to collect the stranded soldiers, under strict conditions negotiated by Ethan and Soraya. The tension at the landing site was palpable, but the planet's protective aura remained, ensuring no further aggression could take root. Reluctantly, the scarred commander led his men aboard, casting one final glare in Ethan's direction before disappearing into the hatch. The shuttle soared away, leaving Tethys in peace. A renewed hush fell over the forest, broken only by the collective sigh of relief from Rivenai and humans alike. Together, they had faced a threat and won, forging an unlikely alliance in the process. Now, all that remained was the question of what came next for both Ethan and the Rivenai civilization. In the weeks that followed, the Rivenai city began to heal from the damage of the brief but fierce conflict. New spires rose where the old had fallen, vines regrew, and the forest's wildlife returned. Under Ethan's supervision, and with the help of Dr. Hanley, Captain Harlow, and Felicia, they fine-tuned the planetary resonance field so it could remain as a protective measure without completely isolating Tethys from gentle contact with the outside world. During this time, Ethan grew ever closer to Soraya and Alia. Long days spent researching the orb's energies gave way to relaxed evenings, sharing stories of Earth and Tethys, forging a friendship built on trust and gratitude. The Rivenai opened their hearts, showing no resentment toward humankind, only caution toward those who might misuse power. Ethan felt his own heart lighten. He had never before experienced such unity of purpose, such pure compassion. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Soraya and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Below them, lanterns glowed softly among the crystalline streets, and the laughter of the Rivenai drifted on the breeze. High overhead, the stars shimmered with promise. "I never asked," Soraya began, her voice calm yet tinged with curiosity. "What brought you to the stars in the first place, Ethan? Surely your world is not so bleak that you must leave it behind entirely." He sighed, clasping his hands together. "Earth struggles under many burdens, pollution, scarcity, conflicts. But there's hope, too. We explore in search of new frontiers, resources, and knowledge that might help us survive. I always believed we could find answers out there, maybe even allies." He smiled faintly, gesturing around. "I never dreamed I'd find this." She studied him with warm, silvered eyes. "You have found more than you expected. And we, too, have discovered something new in you, a link to the stars, a possibility we had forgotten." A hush settled between them, comfortable and profound. Their worlds, once separated by infinite distance, now felt intertwined. The planet's gentle energies wove around them, as if acknowledging the bond formed through shared adversity. Finally, Soraya spoke again. "Will you remain here with us, Ethan? Your friends, your crew, they may wish to return to Earth. But you, You belong to Tethys in a way none of us anticipated. You awakened the sacred artifact, saved our people. We would be honored if you stayed, to learn from one another, to help guide us forward." Ethan's heart pounded. Part of him yearned to stay, to immerse himself in the Rivenai's harmonious lifestyle and the wonders of Tethys. Yet another part felt the pull of home, the knowledge that Earth still needed hope and knowledge gained from his journey. Before he could answer, Soraya gently placed a hand over his. "We will not bind you. The choice is yours, always. But no matter where you go, Tethys will welcome you, for it has chosen you." Emotions welled in Ethan's chest, and he found himself speechless. He looked out over the starlit city, imagining a future where Rivenai and humans could share wisdom, exchanging possibilities for growth and compassion. Perhaps that was the real reason for exploring the cosmos, to expand both hearts and minds beyond the limits of one's native world. As Captain Harlow recovered, she informed Ethan of her decision to restore as much of the celestial Voyager as possible. With the help of the Rivenai, they retrieved debris scattered across the forest, salvaging engines, navigational computers, and life support systems. The ship would never be space-worthy again, not in its original form, but they might construct a smaller vessel capable of returning the crew to Earth or signaling for a different rescue craft. During this process, Felicia and Dr. Hanley labored side by side with Rivenai scientists, bridging the gap between human and Tethys technology. Bit by bit, they pieced together a new craft, repurposing the crystal resonance towers that had once powered the city's shield. Alia took an active role, her curiosity about mechanics matched only by her empathy for living things. She believed the synergy between organic and inorganic technologies should mirror the synergy the Rivenai had with Tethys, cooperation, not exploitation. Progress was steady, if slow. Weeks turned into months, but the sense of urgency had faded, replaced by a shared desire to do things correctly. They established a timetable. Once the new craft was completed, it would carry the 3 surviving crew members back to Earth. Ethan, however, remained undecided. Dr. Hanley pulled him aside one afternoon, sweat lining his brow. "Listen, Ethan," he said, glancing at the blueprint for the new craft. "We appreciate everything you've done. Without you, we'd have perished here. But are you sure you want to stay behind? Earth needs your brilliance, your experience." "We all do." Ethan paced, running a hand through his hair. "I'm torn, Hanley. Tethys feels like home now. But Earth is still my birthplace. My family is there, my obligations. And part of me wants to share what I've learned here, to help our people become better guardians of our own world." Hanley nodded. "That's exactly it. You've glimpsed what's possible. Harmony with nature, advanced energy systems that don't destroy. We could use that knowledge. Maybe Tethys is giving us the blueprint to save Earth." Ethan looked to the horizon, imagining Earth's polluted skies and crowded cities. There was so much that could benefit from Tethys' example. He also pictured Soraya's serene expression, Alia's bright optimism, the daily wonders of a civilization that knew no greed or war until invaders arrived. A pang of sadness twisted in his chest, for either choice meant leaving part of himself behind. In the end, he resolved that it wouldn't be a permanent farewell. If the resonance field could be managed to permit gentle star travel, perhaps he could return someday, bridging 2 worlds across the cosmos. The thought comforted him, even as it hammered home the monumental decision he had to make. At last, the new craft neared completion. It was a marvel of shared ingenuity, a gleaming vessel of metallic alloys fused with Tethys crystals, its engine designed to interface with the planet's energy field rather than fight against it. Painted on its hull was the combined emblem of the celestial Voyager and a stylized Rivenai sigil, symbolizing unity between Earth and Tethys. News of the ship's imminent launch spread throughout the city. Rivenai gathered to watch the final assembly, offering prayers, songs, and flowers to bless the voyage. Captain Harlow, Felicia, and Dr. Hanley made preparations for departure, their eyes tinged with bittersweet gratitude. They had grown fond of Tethys, but their hearts yearned to see Earth again, to bring news of life beyond the stars. On the evening before liftoff, the entire city gathered for a grand farewell ceremony. Tables laden with exotic fruits and roasted delicacies lined the plaza. Lanterns of soft-hued light hung overhead, giving the space an ethereal glow. Rivenai musicians played gentle melodies on instruments carved from crystal and hollowed wood, creating a mesmerizing soundscape that touched the soul. Ethan stood beside Soraya and Alia, receiving an outpouring of thanks from the Rivenai people. Many knelt, pressing their foreheads to the ground, calling him Starbringer or Planet Friend. He humbly tried to convey that he had only done what was necessary to protect their world, but they remained steadfast in their reverence. In their eyes, he was the living embodiment of the ancient prophecy, a visitor who brought salvation in Tethys' darkest hour. Alia finally broke through the throng, throwing her arms around Ethan in a tight embrace. "You changed everything," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Without you, Centronova would have enslaved us, stolen our birthright. Because of you, Tethys remains free." He smiled through his own tears, touched by her heartfelt sincerity. Soraya approached more quietly, a faint smile gracing her lips. "No matter where you go, Ethan," she said, "remember that Tethys is a part of you now. The sacred artifact chose you, and in turn, we have chosen you as one of our own." She pressed a small, glowing crystal into his hand, one of the resonant shards from the orb's chamber. "Keep this as a bond between our worlds." Ethan's chest tightened with emotion. He looked around at the countless faces illuminated in the lantern light, faces of beings who, despite their innocence, had shown remarkable strength and grace under threat. "Thank you," he managed, voice trembling. "I will never forget you, any of you." The ceremony lasted late into the night, filled with laughter, song, and reflection on the hardships they had overcome. Though a somber tone underlined the event, hope for the future rose above all. Unity, not fear, would define the legacy of Tethys from that day onward. Sunrise found the new spacecraft perched on a makeshift launch pad in the city's outskirts. The circular clearing was where the colossal walker once stood, now replaced by a symbol of cooperation rather than conquest. Rivenai from every corner of the land had come to witness the departure of the human visitors who had fought beside them. Captain Harlow, Felicia, and Dr. Hanley donned repaired flight suits, their expressions resolute yet tinged with sadness. They embraced Soraya, Alia, and other Rivenai friends, exchanging words of thanks and promises to return. Then, each one climbed the metal steps into the vessel's cabin, taking positions at improvised control panels designed through a mix of Earth and Tethys engineering. Ethan lingered at the base of the steps, wrestling with a final decision. He had informed the crew of his intent to remain, at least temporarily, to help the Rivenai further stabilize the resonance field. Soraya stood beside him, holding his hand, her eyes reflecting support for whichever path he chose. "You could still come with us, Ethan," Captain Harlow said softly from the hatch. "We'd welcome your help on Earth. We could bring you back here once we build a stable route." Her voice held a faint note of pleading, as though hoping the bond they shared would sway him. He thought of his parents, siblings, the city lights of Earth, the azure oceans that needed protection. Then he glanced at Soraya, at the Rivenai waving tearful farewells, at the ancient spires glinting under the morning sun. His heart clenched with love for both worlds. With a deep breath, he replied, "I'll come back to Earth eventually. But for now, Tethys needs me, just as I need it. We can accomplish more by ensuring this new alliance remains stable. And maybe, with time, I can bring some solutions back to Earth that will actually make a difference." Captain Harlow nodded, acknowledging the gravity of his choice. They clasped hands in a firm farewell. Then, the hatch sealed, and Ethan stepped back to stand with Soraya and Alia. The engines whirred to life, emitting a brilliant hum that resonated in tune with the planet's energy field. Slowly, the craft lifted off, dust swirling in a golden halo around its landing gear. A wave of cheers and tears swept through the crowd. Children pointed skyward with wide-eyed wonder, and the older Rivenai placed palms over their hearts in silent prayer. Above, the ship ascended, breaching the thick canopy of Tethys atmosphere. Ethan imagined Captain Harlow peering through a porthole, gazing at the receding landscape, a place that once threatened them, but now felt like a second home. Soon, the craft vanished from sight, leaving only a fading trail of sunlight across the morning sky. For a long moment, the entire gathering stood in reverent silence, as if paying respects to an epical chapter that had just concluded. Life on Tethys settled into a new rhythm. The planet's resonance shield remained, but in a gentler form that allowed beneficial contact and trade, if ever needed, while warding off any renewed attempts at militarized intrusion. Scavenged remnants of Centronova's machinery were repurposed by curious Rivenai inventors, under Ethan's guidance, to create tools that complemented their organic lifestyle, rather than dominating it. Soraya continued her duties as the city's spiritual and administrative leader, convening councils to address the challenges of growth. With the knowledge gained from the orb, she encouraged a balanced expansion, ensuring that Tethys' ecological harmony remained untouched. Alia pursued a role as an ambassador to other distant settlements, forging connections and sharing the lessons learned from recent events. Word of the Starman who awakened the artifact spread far and wide, drawing visitors from across the planet who sought to witness the rumored miracle worker. Ethan split his time between researching the deeper secrets of Tethys' planetary consciousness and collaborating with Rivenai artisans to refine the synergy of crystalline-fused technology. He envisioned a future where Earth and Tethys could exchange ambassadors, forging a new era of interplanetary cooperation. Perhaps, in time, the rivalry that plagued humankind could be tempered by the example of the Rivenai's peaceful coexistence. In quiet moments, he returned to the sacred grove, sitting beside the still pool where he had led the grand resonance wave that saved the planet. There, he would place his hand on the ground, feeling the faint heartbeat of Tethys pulsing through the soil. Each time, he felt a gentle sense of belonging, as if the planet itself recognized him as a child returned home. Soraya sometimes joined him, her elegant figure silhouetted against the dappled sunlight filtering through ancient branches. They spoke of the past and the future, of the challenges that lay ahead and the wonder of discovery. There was no rush, no pressure, just a shared understanding that destiny had woven their lives together in the tapestry of Tethys. Though he missed Earth, Ethan no longer felt the same restlessness. He had stumbled upon a serene truth, that sometimes what you discover at the far edge of the galaxy is the most profound part of yourself, reflected back through alien eyes and cosmic wonders. Seasons came and went on Tethys, marked by shifts in the color of leaves and the migration of dazzling crystal-winged birds. Under Soraya's guidance, and with Ethan's continuous influence, the Rivenai flourished, blending ancient traditions with cautious adaptation of new ideas. Villages that once stood isolated began to thrive under a shared awareness of planetary unity, forged by the resonance wave. The scars left by Centronova's invasion healed, replaced by a renewed faith in the power of harmony. A message eventually reached Tethys, delivered by a small Earth-registered shuttle that managed to sync with the planet's resonance, following coordinates sent by Captain Harlow. On board were envoys from Earth Space Council, bearing formal requests for dialogue, scientific exchange, and peaceful contact. Ethan took part in these initial meetings, bridging the communication gap with his deep understanding of both worlds. The Rivenai welcomed the Earth representatives with open hearts and watchful eyes, determined never to let greed corrupt their home again. In time, the new partnership blossomed into a carefully regulated alliance. Earth sent teachers and students, yearning to learn from Tethys' living architecture, sustainable technologies, and spiritual harmony. The Rivenai, in turn, gleaned from human expertise in medicine, mathematics, and astronavigation, broadening their capacity for exploration without losing their core values. During these diplomatic exchanges, Ethan often found himself pulled in both directions, one foot in Earth's scientific vigor, the other rooted in Tethys' soulful serenity. Yet, through it all, he experienced a profound sense of purpose. He had become a conduit for unity, for bridging two civilizations that might otherwise have remained strangers among the stars. The sacred artifact remained at the heart of Tethys, watched over by Soraya and a new circle of guardians who understood that its power was not meant for conquest, but for enlightenment. Periodically, it would glow, signaling moments of global import, like a cosmic heartbeat guiding the planet's destiny. No one forgot how close Tethys had come to destruction, and the orb stood as a living testament to the necessity of protecting what was precious. As for Ethan and Soraya, their bond deepened over the years. While both led busy lives filled with responsibilities, Soraya as leader of her people, Ethan as an ambassador for interplanetary collaboration. They found solace in one another's presence. Their shared quiet moments beneath Tethys' twin moons offered a respite from weighty duties, a reminder that love and unity ultimately shaped the course of civilizations more powerfully than fear or greed. One sparkling morning, as the city bustled with visitors from Earth and distant Rivenai tribes, Ethan gazed across the gleaming spires. Alia approached, excitement dancing in her eyes. "A new science delegation arrived last night," she announced. "They brought students who wish to study the resonance field. Some of them are already speaking of how Tethys might serve as a model for restoring Earth's ecosystems. Can you believe it? They see a future where both planets thrive together." Ethan smiled, nodding. "I can believe it, Alia. The seeds of cooperation were planted the moment the Rivenai offered me their hand in friendship, instead of turning me away. Now, those seeds are blooming." He placed a hand on her shoulder, recalling her younger self who first greeted him with such curiosity and hope. "This is the harmony we dreamed of." Together, they climbed one of the city's observation towers, marveling at the sight of humans and Rivenai exchanging stories, building projects, and forging bonds of friendship. Beyond the city, the forest shimmered with life, vibrant and unblemished, a testament to the choice Tethys had made to stand against exploitation. And so it was that, on a once unknown planet far from Earth, two civilizations found common ground, bound by shared challenges and triumphs. Their story became a beacon in the cosmos, reminding distant worlds that even in the face of greed, violence, and cosmic storms, unity could prevail, guided by the gentle yet unbreakable threads of compassion and understanding. Happy ending. Under the protective gaze of Tethys' twin moons, Ethan Cole and the Rivenai celebrated a new dawn, one in which neither planet nor people would ever stand alone. The research vessel Celestial Voyager's catastrophic crash had sparked a profound evolution, transforming strangers into allies and forging a future where hope shone brighter than any star in the sky.